The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC. And if you would like to see a live recording of The Angry Chicken, come on out to CreateCon in Orlando this July. Tickets and info over at createconvention.net.
Everyone, get in here!
Ready for action!
I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is The Angry Chicken.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the finals of the Angriest Chicken Open for spring 2016. So we had a really great day yesterday. We had 100 participants total show up and fight their way through a bracket through 6 rounds. So we've got the finals here for you today. I'm really excited. I've got Dills casting with me. Yay!
Hello.
Oh my God, it was such a crazy day yesterday. It started at like 11:30 in the morning. I was still doing stuff at 9:30 at night with like getting rounds set and putting out fires and stuff. It was a crazy day, but well worth it because, man, there were some intensely long matches.
Yeah.
I think that just with the Reno stuff and all the control stuff and these old gods and everything that has been brought to the table, it's such a slow tournament meta right now. We had one best of 5 that went over 2.5 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was insane.
I mean, even with the slow meta, geez, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, there were some NA server issues. So basically the NA servers went down right in the middle of that round too. So then all the reconnecting and everything else. But yeah, there was one game that was like 2.5 hours. It was crazy. And it was one of our finalists games. He actually ended up winning that round. That was Brewdon, I think. So
Okay.
yes, it was a crazy day. But here we are with the finals.
So then he's had quite a journey to get here. So should we talk about who these players are? Or actually, you know what I kind of want to do real quick? I just want to look at this bracket.
All right.
See if there's some of our notable players. So Sun Devils has played in a bunch of these. Who were the champions from last, or the finalists from last time?
Last time we had Dice Clay and we had
Clay.
Soybean, and both of those were actually, we thought that we might get a rematch in round 4, but they both ended up losing in round 3. So unfortunately, they didn't make it through. But it's kind of crazy because a lot of the people that made it pretty far in our winter tournament, it's almost mirroring what's going on with HCT right now, is that people who are, very good at the kind of old meta are having trouble adjusting to the new one, and you're seeing some names from the winter championships falling in the spring ones pretty early on. So it's whoever's mastering the new meta is really
things are quite different right now. I noticed Justin R. Young, affectionately known as Jury, fell in the first round again, but to his credit, the person that beat him ended up going all the way to round 4. So
yes.
Look, sometimes you just draw unlucky in the first round, but I'm sure Justin will be back for the next taco. And
he plays every time, and I'm always shocked. He messaged me at about 5:30 in the morning and was like, "What time does taco start tomorrow?" I was like, "Dude." So yeah, I am always surprised with him, obviously being Pacific time too. So it is a 9 a.m. Pacific start. So that's pretty early on a Saturday morning.
Sure.
Not gonna lie.
Another notable is Knolltown, who made it to our finals and ended up second place, I think, 2 tacos ago.
Yep.
And he made it all the way to the semifinals before finally losing to one of our finalists, clynch. So another great run for him. That's pretty cool. It's kind of awesome to see some names kind of continue to come back. So, every taco, these are going to be the names to watch out for, the notable names. Because these are people who make deep runs in this thing every single time. That's kind of cool. Well, at some point we'll get a repeat winner, I'm sure.
I know. I keep hoping that we're going to see, some sort of consistency in the names. And there are some names that I'm really starting to recognize. But the other really cool thing is there's a lot of names that I don't recognize.
New people.
Yeah, new people coming in, joining Taco is always really fun and exciting. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and we used a new platform this time called Battlefy, which was so freaking awesome. It let us do like class picks and battle tag entries and even bans. We got to do bans in this tournament, which was totally new. We've never been able to do bans in a taco tournament before. So Battlefy
and all of this was
awesome.
Done through the actual website itself. So
everything is in the one place. It's amazing. It has a chat, like there's a private match chat for every match that you go into, and then there's like a public, big, huge, everybody talks in chat. So it was such a great resource to just say like, all communication and everything is happening at Battlefy. Like, don't look at Twitch, don't look at Hearthstone chats, like, don't look anywhere, just look at the website. Yeah, it was
one-stop shop for everything you need. That's really cool too, because I'm actually planning to do. I'm glad that you recommend this because I'm planning to do a Dills patron tourney at some point, and I was wondering which site I would use. So if this one's getting the recommendation, then
oh my god, like this is now the third platform that we've used for Angry Chicken tournaments, and it is by far head and shoulders above everything else, not to mention the support. Like, I was DMing them on Twitter yesterday looking for support and getting answers back like that. It's it's instant answers. So
it also has this handy dandy little stats page, which shows you all kinds of cool stuff.
It does. It does.
We should talk about some of this stuff, I think.
Yeah.
This is the whole, this brand new meta. Standard is a new thing. First time we've done taco that, first of all, has the bans like you mentioned, and also now in this new standard format. So essentially every single other taco was wild and we didn't know it. This is the first standard one. So it's kind of cool to see some of the trends of what classes people brought, but not only that, but what classes people banned. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, the bans were ridiculously one-sided. So we had 214 Shaman bans throughout the tournament, and the next closest class was Warrior with 34. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
First of all, it says 214 out of 214. Does that mean that in every match, at least a Shaman was banned? I'm guessing that's what that means.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out yesterday too, and I think it might also be that like they need a number out of which to make like a percentage.
Yeah, because these don't really add up, I don't think. So no. I don't think that's exactly what that means. So yeah.
No, I think it's to make a percentage for the bar graph there. So we had 214 bans for Shaman and then 34 bans out of 214 if you want to look at it like that. But yeah, it's just to make a
way to make
bar
this
graph.
Bar makes sense. Yeah. That makes a lot more sense. I'm looking at him like, this doesn't make sense at all to me.
Yeah, I did the same thing yesterday.
Times, people banned Shaman. Now, the same thing happened at the DreamHack tournament where essentially at the beginning of every single match, both people just banned Shaman, at least in a bunch of my matches. I think as the tournament progressed and as the players kind of started to recognize what the tournament meta was, they stopped banning Shaman at such a high rate, and towards the end of the tournament you were seeing like Rogue banned and Warrior banned and things like that. And I was on my Dills patron chat kind of talking to clynch about it, because quick little note here, clynch is one of my patrons, so I'm incredibly happy to find out that he made it all the way to the finals. So I'm not going to be 100% unbiased here when it comes to who I'm rooting for, but I will cast in a way that is essentially unbiased. But I am rooting for somebody. Sorry.
That's disclaimer. Okay. That's allowed.
Yeah, disclaimer. But so he was talking about how he basically assumed his Shaman would be banned all the time, so really just concentrated on the other three classes being really, really strong, so then he could take out the remaining three classes pretty easily. And that strategy seems to have worked for him because everybody banned his Shaman, and then he just dominated him with his other classes. And then the other interesting thing is that apparently Rogue has the highest win rate anyway.
It did, and I think that has a lot to do with people who play Rogue being very, very strong Rogue players. And when you are playing in a tournament, it's a totally different meta than the ladder. This is why, we always say don't necessarily take whatever, Tice won with at HCT and take that on the ladder because, you know, he's teching for very specific decks that he's expecting to see consistently. And you don't have that expectation of consistency on the ladder. So,
Sure.
you know, rogue players can come in and say like, okay, I know I'm going to see a lot of, you know, Shaman and Zoo and possibly, you know, like control warriors and priests and whatever. And they can kind of build around that and be very consistent.
I agree. I think
the people who bring rogue are ridiculously good rogue players.
Well, there's a kind of a god draw you can get with rogue too that doesn't happen. It happens more often than I think it happens with other classes because you're really just trying to get one of 2 cards that are in your deck by turn 7 or 8. And your chances of having one of 2 cards by turn 7 or 8 are pretty good, especially when a lot of your other cards cantrip and cycle already, right? So it's fairly common. It's really unfortunate when you don't get the auctioneer. So it's kind of standard that you will have the auctioneer, and it's going to happen, and you will probably be able to do things like conceal it or do preps or, you know, all these extra coins that you're getting. So once rogue gets to those turns, it's just a very good class. And not to mention the fact that in a tournament meta, generally the meta will be slower, which gives rogue time to get to these turns. On the ladder, rogue may be a little bit more inconsistent because you're constantly up against Zoo, which is all in your face, or face Shaman, or some of these more aggressive classes. Whereas in a tournament, you're going to run up against a lot more control and just get more time to set up. And rogue is the best at delivering once they get set up, at least currently.
Yeah, so we actually, considering how much it was banned, Shaman came 3rd in win rate when it was actually allowed to be played. So it's still powerful, but not as powerful as Warlock, which had a slightly higher win rate and got played all the freaking time. Warlock had 123 games where it was played as one of the 2 classes. So it was just insanely powerful. Like, we saw so many Warlock players going through.
Yeah, Warlock right now is really, really good because there's the Zoo is powerful, as well as the Reno Warlock, which a lot of people are still playing, is also very, very good. And it's also popular because Terrence made it so, you know, he did so well with it at DreamHack, and that was the most recent major tournament. But also you notice here too, Warlock stomped all over Shaman, which I think is another interesting thing to know. 61% win rate against Shaman. So if you had a Warlock in your rotation, it doesn't really make sense to ban Shaman. I think you would actually want to be banning rogue, or even potentially like Druid or somebody else like that who can actually push through a little bit easier. So cool stuff here. Very, very cool stuff. Shaman, though, did destroy mages 100% of the time.
Yep.
So if you were bringing mage, probably a good idea to still ban that Shaman. And I was surprised to see this, but Paladin had the lowest win rate of all the classes.
Even below Hunter.
Even below Priest. Hunter actually did okay. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I think of Hunter as being fairly weak right now outside of the weirdest thing right now is the best Hunter deck is the Yogg lock and load deck. That is so bizarre to me that is the best deck right now for Hunter. But that's the world we live in right now. But Paladins, everyone thinks of this N'Zoth Paladin as being really, really strong. And I kind of think that given another few weeks, I don't think we're going to see that much Paladin anymore unless Freeze Mage stays a very popular tournament deck. Because the Paladin with all the healing is just a straight counter to the Freeze Mage.
Yeah.
But against a lot of other stuff, I think it's just too slow and it just gets run over. Doesn't ever get to that big N'Zoth turn. It just takes too long. So, or you don't draw your qualities or something like that. So Paladin's struggling.
Definitely. So that brings us to our finalists today. We're going to get right into it in a couple of minutes. We've got Brewdon, who brought Shaman, Druid, Warlock, and Priest. And I'm actually going to bring up our score screen now. So, yeah, we've got him. He went 15-9 throughout the tournament, and he banned Shaman exclusively when it was available. And if his opponent didn't bring Shaman, then he went with Mage or Warlock. So I think we're probably going to see a Shaman ban out of him because... now, is it Clynch or C-Lynch?
Well, his name is Casey.
Yes, and so I think Clynch is just a super awesome happenstance of a name.
He's C-Lynch, but we'll call him Clynch.
I think we're just going to call him Clynch. Yeah. So he's bringing Shaman, Warlock, Warrior, and Paladin, and he went 15-3 in the tournament. So
yeah, he had quite a run.
amazing record. 3-0'd a lot of people. 3-0'd Esconde, 3-1'd Knowlton, who, as we mentioned, was a quarterfinalist last time or semifinalist last time.
He was a semifinalist, yeah. Or no, he was a finalist 2 times ago.
2 times ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So some really strong performances against some really strong players. I think going in, he's probably my pick to win. But that being said, I did catch a couple of games of Brewdon's because he was his opponents were streaming. He is meticulous and he is a very, very strong player. So I think we're going to see some long games, some really well thought out turns, and I'm excited. But yeah, I think I'm expecting to see a Shaman ban come out of Brewdon, and I think probably a Priest ban coming out of Clynch, only because he's banned either Warrior or Priest the whole way through. So
yeah,
we don't have the Warrior option. I think he's going to go with Priest.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that makes sense with his lineup because he's got some faster decks that don't do so well when he goes up against pure control decks, I think. And Priest right now is basically running a pure control style or the Nazah style, which is still counts as a pure control style. So he doesn't want to play his Zoo deck and then just get wrecked by all the AoE, right? He wants to play against other classes that he can get the board and keep the board rather than just losing it all in one AoE spell. So I totally expect to see him ban Priest. And, it like you said, he had a fantastic record all the way through, but that doesn't mean anything when it gets to the finals because the other guy also had to play really, really well to get there. And you could kind of get lucky going up against, good matchups for you and stuff like that. But when he gets to the finals, all bets are off. This is a brand new, everything, just erase all that, start fresh. And he's going to have to bring it. So it's going to be, I'm pretty sure, a fantastic. Well, I'm going to guess it's going to go 5 games.
Yeah, I think it's going to go 5 games as well, and I think it's going to be totally opposite to what we saw with Dice Clay and Soybean last time. Garrett and I were done casting in about half an hour. I think we're going to be it's going to be a lot longer today. So the stream is up, it's working, I just double checked. I think we've got bans from our players, so I made the graphic ahead of time, and I hope that I'm right in my predictions, but I'm going to jump over to the match and see what bans we've got. So we do have a Priest ban out of Clynch and a Shaman ban out of Brewdon. So we are all set to go, guys. I'm so excited that we were totally right with our predictions there on the bans. Makes my job so much easier.
Apparently we're professional casters here.
Yep.
We know what's going on.
We totally know what's going on.
So now we're gonna do a thing where we test out everything by them playing their 2 banned classes. Is that what we're doing?
Yes, so that's what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna get into, turn this down a little bit here, and I'm gonna try to go in and spectate them because they're in the challenge screen. So I think we can do that. I'm not getting the ability to spectate either one of them.
I don't either at the moment. So I don't know if they're actually. I think they might need to be in the game first.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give them the go ahead to go into the game.
Yeah, tell them that they go into their fake game so we can test everything and make sure it works.
Your fake Shaman versus Priest game.
And while Jocelyn gets them all set up to do that, I'll briefly talk about what I think the meta is kind of turning into right now, which is, I think, a really, really cool kind of give and take we've been wanting for a long time. I feel like we've been going through these periods where, there was just too much aggro or too much control. And right now I feel like there's just a good mix of everything. And I'm excited to see about a week or 2 from now when things start to settle just a bit and we start to get more into the rock, paper, scissors part of the tournament meta where everybody basically brings counters to what they think other people are bringing. And one of the big pieces of this, which we didn't do for this tournament was this is a conquest tournament, correct?
Sorry, yes, it is Conquest. I had my mic muted so you couldn't hear me doing all my typing.
So this is a Conquest tournament, but I think a lot of people are moving back into the Last Hero Standing format, which is what DreamHack used, which takes away the kind of quote-unquote randomness that a lot of pros had complained about, where what you pick as your first class doesn't matter as much because it just kind of, it's actually better to pick it randomly so that there's literally no way for the opponent to counter you, so that you don't open with the same deck every single match and things like that. I think you're going to see now more and more people are going to look at the other person's list of classes, and then they're going to make an informed decision on that first class, and it's going to matter a lot more. It's going to be a lot more interesting, and especially when people are starting to bring these counters, and you know, like what the guy is still playing. So if he beats you with the first class, you are forced to then try to counter his class, and then there's an interesting kind of dynamic which was happening to me at DreamHack, where I was thinking, okay, I have to beat that class, and if I don't beat it with this deck, I'm definitely losing with the next deck. So that game is very important, and it puts pressure on like game 2, and game 3, and not just game 5. Which I think is really, really cool for Hearthstone tournaments. So there's a lot of really great decks that are coming out these days. A lot of cool stuff is happening in Hearthstone. My rank has a little bit suffered because I've been playing a lot of tournament decks on the ladder rather than just trying to play what I know to be the top deck. But it's just a great time to be doing tournaments. So I'm excited to cast these decks and see where things go.
All right, so we are ready to go. So you should be able to spectate them now. I didn't have a problem, and our game screen is good to go. So,
all right. So I can't do it now, but
they're
one game, they're going to start the new one.
Yeah. So it says preparing to battle a friend on my screen. So you should be able to spectate as soon as we get going here. But yeah, I'm super excited.
I'm just going to shut down Hearthstone and open it up again real quick. Sometimes weird stuff happens. But yeah, tell them they're going into game 1, right?
Yes, they're going into game 1. So we've got Druid, Shaman, and Warlock available to Brewdon, and we've got Warrior, Warlock, and Paladin available to clynch. So I don't know, do you have any ideas of what you think that we might see in the first round as a tournament legend player?
I really actually don't know, because when it comes to what you're picking for the first class, it's a pretty important decision. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to guess that Brewdon will just go ahead and queue up his Shaman right away. And then for clynch, I'm thinking maybe he'll go with the Warlock.
Well, you're right of one of two. So we have a Warlock mirror match to start us off here. So I am not 100% sure what decks these guys have brought, but it looks like we might be looking at a Zoo mirror. So...
Okay. Well, the Zoo mirror essentially comes down to who gets on the board first and then is able to keep it. So actually, the guy who got to roll going first is a pretty big deal in a game like this. Looking at clynch's hand, who did get to go first, he didn't, unfortunately, get a 1-drop, which is a huge deal. So that actually passes initiative straight back over to Brewdon, who does have several options for turn.
Yeah, so he's got the Voidwalker here, which, always a good option. He's got Flame Imp, and he knows his opponent has nothing on board to deal with that. So, and not to mention he has the coin, so he could go Coin Peddler if he was feeling really...
I really like what he did here, though. I like him just playing just the guy with the most stats, because what he can do is he can go Flame Imp into Coin Imp Gang Boss and basically have a board that'll never go away.
Yeah.
And once you have the board that never goes away as the Zoo player, it's just pretty tough. So clynch goes ahead and goes with the Dark Peddler because it does challenge directly the Flame Imp. He's got Young Priestess, Murloc, Tidecaller, and Tentacle. Wow. Tentacle's probably not good when you have Forbidden Ritual in your hand, so I'm guessing he's going to go with the Priestess here. He does go with the Tentacle. He actually might be thinking this is my only way to get back on board, is to take this Tentacle and hope to have it exist on the board and deal with the board of Brewdon before I then am able to rebuild my board back again.
Right, so Tentacle of N'Zoth is one of the new cards that came out with Old God. So it's 1/1 for 1 that deals 1 damage to all minions as a death rattle. So it's going to be good to help him do a little bit of board control, I think. I think it's a good choice out of what he had there. And he's got a few different options now for going into turn 3, so...
I honestly think I would have liked to just go ahead and see the Imp Gang Boss before we see this Knife Juggler, because he's going to be able, with the Imp Gang Boss, he's going to be able to produce more imps from the existing creature on the board, and he could go with the Knife Juggler and Voidwalker on the next turn, and then run the Imp Gang Boss into something, getting him 2 knives on that turn. This isn't necessarily a misplay or anything like that. It's just another way to go about the same type of thing. So here it's a little bit rough now for clynch, because he's either going to have to get lucky with a Flame Juggler hit here to be able to get through this Voidwalker. He doesn't have any cards that buff outside of Power Overwhelming, which is rare for a Zoo deck. You know, a lot of times you would see something like Direwolf Alpha go down and easily be able to kill off the 1/3 and start building his board back up. He just doesn't have those options in his hand. And now he's got a whole bunch of minions with 1 health, and there's a Knife Juggler. Feels bad, man.
Yeah, it really, really does.
I don't see any reason not to play the Sea Giant for 3 right here, because when else are you going to get a Sea Giant out for this cheap?
Well, it is zoo on zoo, so
true,
it could actually happen quite often.
But once one kind of takes initiative on the board, they generally don't let the other
get back.
Get back on the board. So he goes ahead and he makes the attack, which means he can no longer play the Sea Giant anymore. So I'm guessing he's going to go for something like the Imp Gang Boss.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what we're going to see this turn.
Although he could also do Peddler.
I'd like to see the minion play before he does too much trading, though.
I agree. I think, you know, if he starts doing this and he sees where the knives go, that gives him a little bit more information. And also, there's more targets. So I feel like it was a slight misplay to start doing the trading before playing the Dark Peddler. I get where you hit the 1/3 because the 1/3 was something where if a knife hits it, it doesn't die. But it still opens up options for him. If the knife hits it, he can then trade using one of his 2 attack minions. Wow!
Oh,
fantastic
that flame juggle.
So
man.
I think now he also probably needs to put a couple of guys on the board, but I actually think the Tentacle and the Zoth would be my preferred play. The Forbidden Ritual here is okay, but he only gets 2, and he has the Darkshire Councilman, where if he waits for turn 5, he can do that plus the Forbidden Ritual, which would then give him a 3/5 and 2 1/1s.
Right, because the Councilman is the after you summon a minion, you gain +1 attack. So summoning the 2 tentacles would actually make this a 3/5.
It would make it a 3/5 right away for 3, and also give him these 2 1/1s anyway. If he plays the Tentacle here, it actually kind of gives him a little bit of a chance to have some damage done to Brewdon's board here. It's going to be tough for him to find a turn for this Tentacle and the Zoth, honestly.
Yeah, I think that was the turn to play it. I think that would have helped him, get the 1 damage on the Voidwalker so that he could use his Flame Juggler to help trade into that. He would have totally cleared the Flame Imp and left him with a 2/1 Peddler. Yeah.
Brewdon's being a little bit greedy with the Sea Giant. I think it's time to just throw that thing on the board, man. I think when you have a 4-mana 8/8, you just play a 4-mana 8/8.
You just do it, yeah.
Yeah, because he can do that and clear the board. And once Zoo has nothing, it's really difficult for Zoo to ever come back. So
we do get the second Forbidden Ritual, though, so that's going to at least allow him to do the two tentacle Councilman play.
Which is nowhere near as good as it was, though, because now 8/8 just swallows it up free.
That's true.
Yeah. I really don't see a way for Sea Lynch. This is kind of the problem with the Zoo mirror match, is that once somebody gets out ahead, there just really isn't any great way to get back. So he's definitely in dire straits right now. He can just eat up the 3/5, then he can play Knife Juggler, Gang Boss, and see what he gets out of that. And then if one of the tentacles goes down, he can finish it off with the 1/2, and then he's just home free at that point.
See,
we don't have full lists for these guys, do we? Because
no, we don't have deck lists. No, we don't.
Okay. Because it would be interesting to know if either of these guys are playing the decks that are running things like the Leroy finishers. I'm guessing they're probably running Leroy finishers.
I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah. But I think you want to eat this 3/5 with your 8/8 before you do the juggles, because you want, like, hitting the 3/5 is a wasted juggle essentially. So doing 8 damage isn't really worth so much right now as it is to just control the board. So I think his best play is to actually go ahead and just eat the 3/5. But he's going to go ahead and use the Power Overwhelming instead.
That's interesting. I wonder if that points to him potentially not having
he wants to hit the
Power
face
Overwhelming. Yeah.
That's basically what this comes down to. He just really wants to hit the face for 8. Or 9, essentially. But I can't fault him for that. But I think at this point, either line of play is probably a winning play. But leaving minions on the board is the only way a Zoo gets back in. But Sea Lynch bricks out, and he's done. So we've got Brewdon up 1-0. That is a little bit, though. I wouldn't put a lot of. I wouldn't think of that match as being super impactful as far as like a skill level, a skill match. That's basically one person gets out in front of the other, and that's generally who gets the first body on the board. But it is a huge advantage to win a mirror match in any game, in any best of 5. So you got to give advantage to Brewdon right now for sure.
So we're just waiting for match number 2 to start up here. So Brewdon now has his Shaman and his Druid left. I would think that we'd probably see Shaman next out of him.
Yeah, that makes sense. He has to win once with every single deck, so maybe, but I mean, if he feels really confident with the Shaman, maybe you go Druid here just to give yourself the most chances to get a win with it, right?
True.
That's another way to look at it.
All right, looks like we are back in it here.
Okay, so he did go with a Shaman, and clynch has moved on to his Paladin deck, which I believe is a N'Zoth Paladin.
I would say so. It looks like it. I mean,
yeah, he's got the Sylvanas.
Sylvanas is kind of a dead giveaway, yeah.
So the really big thing here for the Shaman is to be able to pressure before the Paladin can essentially get to those late game turns where they stabilize. And the really important thing for the Paladin is to get those stabilizing cards, the Consecrates, the Equalities, and things like that, to never allow the Shaman to get so much momentum that it just overwhelms you and you can't come back. The Doomsayer is a huge portion of this, as is the True Silver Champion. You can drop the Doomsayer on turn 2 as the Paladin and basically take away turns 2 and 3 for the Shaman. Especially if the Shaman does things like Tunnel Trog, coin Tunnel Trog, and then you drop a Doomsayer, and then they go up. Okay.
Yep.
So I would expect to see Doomsayer just hit the board here. It's basically just going to take away the next turn. He'll take 2 damage from Flame Juggler. Now, there's an interesting thing here, dynamic. So we'll see if Brewdon even thinks about this. There's actually a lot of arguments to be made for not making the totem there, because if clynch has the draw 2 cards card in his hand, he actually gets to play it for 2 mana because 3 minions died instead of 2.
Oh, right. The Paladin card, I think it costs 5 normally.
Yeah. And it goes
Solemn
down
Vigil?
for Solemn Vigil, exactly, yes. So if he had Solemn Vigil in his hand, he was actually he was making it cheaper.
Right.
But he also had Thing from Below, Brewdon did, so making the totem is actually making his Thing from Below cheaper later. So there's definitely an argument to be made for playing that way. You just got to be careful. It is something to note when you're playing against the Paladin who drops that Doomsayer.
So we also see Edric the Pure, who actually is a Grand Tournament card, not an Old Gods card, but with the rotation of all of the cards from GVG out of Standard mode, some of these tournament cards are actually seeing some play. So Edric the Pure is the Paladin legendary that changes all enemy minions' attack to 1.
Yep.
So it's really, really powerful. I'm glad to see a lot of these tournament cards starting to get some play as some of the old stuff rotates out. So
things like Cairn are back in full.
Yes, exactly.
Well. So I think right now, if I'm Brewdon, I think my play is to just throw down the Manatide Totem, because it will prompt clynch to use this True Silver Champion's second hit, which you would rather be used on a free. Manatide Totem, yes, it costs 3, but it basically cycles itself, so it's as if it pays for itself, right? Then you get the hit out of clynch here, and then you can play things like Thing from Below and Flame Juggler and stuff, and they'll be safe because the True Silver will be gone.
Right.
So I think that's a really heads-up play there to go ahead and drop that Manatide Totem. And he goes ahead and does that. So now next turn he's actually got a really nice play where he can do Flame Juggler and Thing from Below, except that this Acolyte of Pain is just completely blocking the Flame Juggler play. So
he could still, he's got a 66, he's got a 66% chance not to hit the Acolyte.
Yeah,
so...
I don't know if you take that. I think the play here is to go ahead and Rockbiter it and then Totem and Thing from Below, because Thing from Below will be 2.
Will be cheaper, yes.
You can also Rockbiter and then do something like Feral Spirits, but I don't think you want to be overloaded going to the next turn, because he's got options like Doomhammer coming up.
Well, and that's kind of the other consideration, too, is do you use the Rockbiter now to make sure that your opponent only has that 1 card draw, or do you save it for your Doomhammer when that's going to represent 10 damage in 1 turn?
I think trying to get too greedy. Yeah, okay, he hits the 1/1.
He YOLO'd the Flame Juggler.
He really did. I don't agree with that. The problem here for him is that now there's an easy humility on this 5/5, and now he can start drawing cards with his Acolyte. I really preferred if Brewdon had gone ahead and just cleared the Acolyte with the Rockbiter. I understand that he's thinking his win condition is Doomhammer, Rockbiter, and Bloodlust, but when you are up against a Paladin, if you can't secure the board, you will never be able to get this Bloodlust off.
Yeah.
And this is now going to give the Paladin lots and lots of options as far as getting rid of this stuff and drawing. Now he's going to be able to draw more cards, which is just a huge deal. It does suck for Clynch here. He wants to play the Cairn, I'm sure. But playing the Humility just seems so strong. You draw another card, you kind of get yourself set up, and you can always drop this, all of these awesome cards later. Looks like he's just going to go for the Cairn, though. He's just running it straight in. Okay, well, now he's got the Kodo combo. So he's got the ability Humility as well as Kodo, which removes just about anything. However, Shaman doesn't have like one massive creature that you want to remove outside of this thing from below. That is the creature.
Yeah, the only other one he might potentially be concerned about is that 7/7 for 4. That's kind of the only other one we see run in some Shaman decks right now. I can't remember the name.
But he still has Edric if that were to happen.
True, yeah.
Yeah. So now I think this is a pretty decent hex target. You're playing a N'Zoth Paladin, right? So this is one more death rattle that won't come back later.
Yeah, so we should just mention when you're playing N'Zoth, it only counts if your death rattle minions actually die. So if they're removed from the game with a polymorph or a hex, say, or if they just sit in your hand and get played, or if they're on your board and don't actually die, N'Zoth is not going to resurrect them. He only brings back things that have actually been removed from the board through death. So
that's correct.
Yeah, it would be really interesting. I think he might be saving that hex for a Sylvanas, because Cairn is very powerful, but Sylvanas, oh my god, what a pain in the butt. Having to deal with multiple Sylvanases in a game is just so frustrating.
Sure. So he's going to go ahead and go for the aggressive line of play here, which tries to set up a Bloodlust victory. He also got lucky with the healing totem there. Now, basically, if Clynch had been able to draw the equality, this would have been completely destroyed.
Yeah.
But he does have the Adric, which is a fantastic counter to this right now. It still represents a lot of damage, though. So Bloodlust is 15, plus he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's actually got lethal if he had one more mana.
Yep.
He's 1 mana short of lethal. He has 20 damage right now. I think with Doomhammer and Rockbiter in your hand, you probably just do it. Get him to 1.
You just Bloodlust, yeah.
Yeah, Bloodlust, get him to 1.
Yeah, because
and now you have Doomhammer and Rockbiter, right?
Yeah, if he puts down anything, it can just be hexed away, killed with the first swing of Doomhammer, and then he could kill his opponent. But the Paladin has Forbidden Healing in hand, so he could potentially heal up for 16 next turn.
And I think that'll be his only play at that point, too. So all of these guys will go back down to 1 health after this. So he is going to get him down to 1. However, Clynch shouldn't give up here because he can clear a couple things and heal all the way back to 17 health.
And he is, it looks like, no hesitation.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he can't actually clear... He can only clear 1 minion right now because the thing from below actually has 5 health, which is kind of annoying. So I think if I can only remove 1 thing, I just remove the thing from below. All right, well, Rockbiter Doomhammer is 10 damage, plus he has the 4 on board, so you can get him back down to 3.
And this is the thing that you always have to kind of be aware of when you're playing against Paladin, is they have so much healing now with Lay on Hands and Forbidden Healing. It's just like almost impossible sometimes to actually kill them because you have to kill them 2 or 3 times over. It's almost as bad as Control Warrior with their armor.
However, I don't think he's going to have a hard time killing him here just because he can do 10 damage plus the 4, get him to 3, and he'll still have the Doomhammer equipped.
Yes.
So in this particular case, the only real out that I see for Clynch here is to draw another Forbidden Healing, or he could draw a Tyrion, which would unfortunately just be hexed. He's in a little bit of trouble. It's going to be tough.
I'm wondering if he has anything like an Ooze in the deck, an Ooze or a Harrison. Well, it doesn't matter because
he can consecrate and do all that kind of stuff, but he can't get rid of the weapon. So the weapon is just going to come right on through, and that's going to be game.
Wow.
So Brewdon is up 2 games to none already, and this was the issue that I talked about with this Paladin deck. As powerful as it is, it tends to get run over by the fast decks.
Yeah. So there we go with the concede out of Clynch.
So he's got a long road back, but again, he's got to beat now this Druid deck 3 times in a row, and I'm going to guess that Brewdon's Druid deck is his weakest deck, because I think Druid currently is the weakest in the meta as far as like these really top tier decks are concerned. So there's definitely still a chance to come back, but he's gonna basically have to never have a game where he draws poorly, right? When you gotta win 3 times in a row, you're gonna have to actually do it every single time.
And so we've got basically 2 kinds of Druid decks. We've got the Cthulhu Druid, and we've got a more traditional Ramp Druid. So
there is also Beast Druid in the meta currently, which I don't know. I don't know exactly what type Brewdon is playing, but it has been. Okay, so he's playing Cthulhu, but it has been making some waves in some tournaments. This new Beast Druid, and there's also, of course, everyone's favorite, which is the Summoning Stone Druid, which one guy played at DreamHack, and now everyone's got a hard on for. So
well, anytime that Summoning Stone works even a little bit, it's very exciting.
People are very excited about that, and I get it. Yeah.
So yeah, we do see Cthulhu Druid coming out of Brewdon, and we've got the Paladin again for clynch. So, not a great starting hand.
Nobody has
really
a good
for either
hand here.
for either player.
Yeah, like it would be nice for clynch to have the Doomsayer. So here's the thing against the Cthulhu Druid, you really want to make sure that you can deal with Cthulhu when it does happen. But right now he doesn't have the awesome tools for it. However, once we get to late game, he's looking real good. He's got the Tyrion. He's already got the N'Zoth in hand. So things will really start to happen at that point. Now Brewdon's got the awkward thing of playing a Twilight Elder, and then on turn 4 he has the Claxi Amber Weaver, but it's not the 4/10. It'll just be the 4/5 Yeti. It's still fine. If he can find a way to play both the Elder and the Disciple, then he'll be able to potentially get up there. But that's only actually gets Cthulhu to 9. He needs to get it to 10. So I think I would just drop this Twilight Elder. Yeah, because this has to be answered. Fortunately for clynch, he does have the answer. He can coin out a True Silver. So there's that Solemn Vigil we were talking about, which when you play the Doomsayer, people, like I've seen actually, rogues will kill Silverhand recruits even though they know that they're going to die to the Doomsayer because they want to make sure that they don't get the free draw. Well, the Claxi Amber Weaver just dies to the True Silver and the Recruit. So I actually kind of like just wild growthing and killing the Recruit off here.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. Like, we do want to see some sort of a kind of ramp coming out of him. Obviously, he hasn't been able to buff his Cthulhu at all, so...
Yeah, the Claxi Amber Weaver is going to be awesome when it's a 4/10, but at this point, it's just the lowly little 4/5 that dies.
Yeah, and I think it's worth waiting because that 4/10 is so difficult to clear unless you make your Paladin opponent use his equality on it. You know, like it can be a quality bait, but as a 4/5, it's just
See, and if he wild grows here too, he also has the Ragnaros that will come one turn earlier. He's got some, really big minions. Like, let's say he draws into the 5/7 Taunter here that costs 6. He's immediately able to play it. Now, it looks a little awkward when you have, a 3, a 4, a 4, a 5, and 8 in your hand. It doesn't quite fit perfectly, but it opens up so many more options, and wild growth gets worse and worse as time goes on.
Speaking of awkward, clynch's last turn was really awkward. Only the Peacekeeper option or the Hero Power, so he goes with Hero Power and keeps his weapon, even though he does have another True Silver in hand. So,
but Paladins
really slow
don't mind
game.
that.
Yeah,
Paladins really don't mind doing that, especially this type of Paladin. He's playing for the late game anyway. He just wants to make sure he can control whatever the Druid does. So, I think Druid of the Claw is probably the best play here. You play it as a 5/6. It's going to take a little bit more than just the 4 and the 1 to get through. So Sylvanas does nothing here. Sylvanas dies and doesn't ever take anything. So Druid of the Claw, I think, is probably the best play. That being said, there's still other options. I mean, now you can play the Claxi Amber Weaver as a 4 or 5 Yeti and just go ahead and kill the 1/1, meaning that he can't just get through it with just the True Silver Champion. So that's also totally viable. But it looks like he wants to buff. He wants to buff Cthulhu so that he can actually start playing these Cthulhu cards. Unfortunately, he's going to be just a little bit short still. It's only at 9/9 right now.
For a second, I didn't think, just with a little bit of delay from spectator mode, I didn't think he was going to kill the 1/1. I thought he was just like going face and passing, and I was like, What's he doing?
So here's an interesting turn for clinch here. The Kodo obviously clears the 2-1, which seems great in theory, but Kodo is going to be one of your ways to clear big, large, burly minions later after you've knocked their health down to 1 or their attack down to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So to use this Stampeding Kodo on just a 2-1 seems really, really poor. It would be awesome if you had some sort of mid-range minions, but again, this deck doesn't really run mid-game minions. It just runs clear, control stuff, and then pure late game.
Yeah, and he currently has 2 ways to knock down that attack. So I mean, he's got his Peacekeeper, he's got his Edric the Pure in hand. Like it seems like not a very good choice. I think he should just probably use his True Silver, kill it off, and then re-dagger, essentially.
Yeah.
True Silver.
I think, honestly, though, he's better off just making a 1-1 or drawing some cards, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to draw. Unfortunately, wait, is he at 10?
No, 9.
He's at 9. Yes, he's at 9, okay. Oh, Beckoner's good here. He can play Beckoner and he can play Druid of the Claw in the same turn. And also, Beckoner just makes the 4-10. But
Exactly.
I kind of prefer playing the Druid of the Claw just because you can always play this 4-10. This uses your mana perfectly this turn. And essentially does the same thing. The 4-6 is just as good as the 4-10 here. Because now the turns might get a little bit awkward. The numbers won't quite add up.
Mm-hmm. So now we do see the equality from the Paladin, but no Consecrate and no Wild Pyromancer to make use of that. So that's probably going to sit in his hand for a little bit here.
But a Sylvanas seems like a pretty good answer here because that 4-10 ain't going anywhere. So you can Sylvanas, and you're going to get something.
Yeah. Yep, I like the Sylvanas play. Plus, again, he's already gotten a Zoth in hand, so if he plays Sylvanas and she dies, then he knows that he's going to get her back probably on turn 10.
Yes, it starts to set up all of your future N'Zoth plays.
Yeah.
But he might be a little bit concerned about death, which I don't blame him. He's down 0-2. He really wants to win this game. But I think, this is one thing that in a tournament, yeah, you might set yourself up to potentially, lose a game because you're not playing cautiously. But playing cautiously oftentimes never gets you closer to a win. It just makes losing take longer. Mm-hmm. So I think I really prefer him just go ahead and throwing the Sylvanas out there because Druids aren't running Keepers of the Grove anymore. That card is essentially gone. So silence is not a thing that you're running into very much anymore. So Sylvanas is a lot safer of a play. And it's just going to make everything awkward for Brewdon here. So this is okay, but I think it's a little bit stronger to go ahead and just go for the Sylvanas.
Yeah, it comes down to that whole, and I know we've talked about it a few times, the playing to win versus playing to not lose. And they're essentially the same thing. In the end, you want to win the game, but it's 2 different mentalities. And really, the way to win tournaments is just constantly playing to win, not playing to not lose.
Yeah.
And I think we see Clynch kind of sitting back a little bit right now and being very defensive.
The other problem here, too, is that he now essentially has initiative, but he doesn't have initiative on a turn when he can do something like drop Tyrion, right?
Yeah.
He has initiative on turn 7, where now his best play is Cairn. I would have much preferred to see him kind of go for that, and then maybe on the next turn he could have done something with a Doomsayer, which then kind of sets him up for a Tyrion to just slam onto the board.
Yeah.
That being said, he's still in a decent position as far as Paladin is concerned. His health total is plenty high. The one thing you're always scared about is just getting one shot by Cthulhu. But the Cthulhu is only an 11/11. I say only. 11/11 is a massive creature. But Paladins don't care unless it one-shots them, right?
Well, and we also know, obviously, because we can see everything, that he doesn't actually have Cthulhu in hand. So, although it's a 12/12 big scary animation on the side,
yeah,
there's really nothing to worry about right now for Clynch playing the Paladin. So
now, unfortunately, here we've got a really, really awkward situation where it's going to be really hard for Clynch not to lose something to the Sylvanas. Mm-hmm. So he definitely now cannot play Tyrion to a Sylvanas. I don't mind him just doing something like, he could play. So this Sylvanas will go off before. So the death rattles will go off in order when they're played, right? So Cairn will go off, then Sylvanas will go off. if you were to play his own Sylvanas here, his Sylvanas would go off after Brewdon's Sylvanas, right? So unless Brewdon could do some kind of trickery to getting that other Sylvanas to go off or killing his own Sylvanas, it actually creates quite a bit of problems. And you could still drop a 1/1 and then go ahead and clear this Twilight Elder. And then basically he'll be forced to trade Sylvanases. And then, but it looks like, oh, okay. This is okay too. And he can play at 1/1 still. This is a very safe line of play where you're, but again, like,
and so, see, he doesn't play the 1/1 here.
He doesn't play the 1 because they don't want to give anything up.
Exactly. Then the Sylvanas could have just killed the 1/1 and then stolen the full health 4/5.
Oh yes, that's true. That's
true. So that's why we didn't see the token coming out from the Paladin.
I still think I would have preferred just like I think he needs to take a chance here and get ahead, because he's been basically behind the entire game.
Oh, spectator mode. So right now we're stuck looking at the 2 Nourish cards. So wait, there we go. It went away.
It all went through at this point. All right. So now you can drop the taunt. So this is definitely awkward. He might have to do something like, ooh. Well, he can run. Oh boy, no, this is weird. Things just got weird, guys.
I mean, there maybe is some sort of an argument for equality here, and then using the Bane into the taunt, killing off Sylvanas with the weapon, that does put him down to 10 health. If his opponent,
he goes the other way if he does that. He does equality, and then he kills the 4/1 with the weapon.
Yes.
And then the 5/1 with the, yes. But
so I would put him down to 11 and back up to 13, so he'd be at 13 health, and the threat of Cthulhu is imminent, basically. Now, his opponent is playing Cthulhu and on 10 mana, so he has to be aware that at any point he could be facing those disgusting purple eyeballs.
Yeah. I really think like he's been playing a little too passively, and he's not able to get ahead, right? So the equality play is really the only play at this point. Oh no, he's going to do this in the wrong order. Oh. Interesting. So he just gave him a 3/3. I'm not sure why. He could have just... He didn't want to take damage. So basically his thinking was, I don't want to take damage, but I think you need to take some damage and not give 3/3.
Yeah, if you were going to token, he should have tokened first and taken the chance of giving him a 1/1.
Giving him the 1/1 rather than the 3/3. Exactly.
So I think we might be seeing a little bit of the pressure getting to clinch.
The pressure is the pressure. You're down 0-2. It's the finals of the taco. You know it's being cast, and it's tough, and it's hard to think through all of these turns properly. But it's easy to see. And hey, look, you and me both stream. We understand when you're streaming, the play seems obvious to everybody else watching, but it doesn't seem so obvious to you when you're playing.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Everyone always knows way better than you do.
So I think the best play to go ahead and close this out is to play Ragnaros, and then go ahead and clear the 1/1, doing 8 damage to the face, 11 damage to the face, getting down to 5. So, and then you've got Cthulhu as your follow-up, which is now at 12/12. Because now equality's been used, so how does he deal with this?
I was just going to say the only thing that could possibly save him right now is Forbidden Healing, and he top decks it, so he can heal back up to 25 right now.
He'll do 25, but he's still facing down 11 damage plus 12, which he's actually, no, he's not even saved, because it's exactly, oh no, it's 23 damage that'll be coming in next turn. So next turn would be 23 damage, but again, that would be an unwinnable position. So
I mean, the only other play he's really got here would be maybe Tyrion and then Forbidden Healing for 4. Like,
well, he still has. Oh no, he doesn't, because he gave it up. Oh no, I thought he still had one of the Aldors, but because he gave up the Aldor.
Yep.
Which he didn't ever have to actually use in that last turn, but he could have Aldored Rag and then Kodoed it, and then healed for 4 at that point. But I think at this point, yeah, all this does is just delay the inevitable for one more turn. Yeah. But at this point, you kind of got to go for it. So Cthulhu gets him down to 2 health, because that's 12 plus the 11 on board. 23 damage. Might as well go for it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
He's got swipe in hand.
Yeah, and he's already shown that he can't deal with a board. He wasn't able to clear Rag. He wasn't able to clear the 3/3. So I don't think that there's any reason why you wouldn't play your Cthulhu, because Cthulhu isn't all a battle cry, right? Then he still is staring down this gigantic 12/12. Exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
and you have swipe in hand to be able to deal the last bit of damage if he's somehow miraculously able to clear the board and heal up again. And swipe should be able to close things out. The other option here, too, though, is to just play super safe or just play like Twin Emperor or something like that and just continue to just mount pressure and still do 11 damage this turn. You know, getting him down to 6 or 16. No, 14. Math is hard.
Oh, wild growth. So he's digging for something.
I think he just realizes he's totally fine. He just might as well just play it safe. He can charge this out, do a bunch of damage here.
He really just wants to make sure that when he drops that Cthulhu, that battle cry is going to be lethal. Yeah, exactly.
And I think at this point, there's no real wrong way to play this here. I don't see. There's no way out now for clinch. He basically just kept backing himself into a corner, and now here's the corner, right? So he lost slower, but he lost.
Yeah.
And once you're behind, the only way to come back is to do your best to flip the entire board at some point. And sometimes that means taking a chance, you know, like the turn where he could have played Sylvanas, the turn where he gave away the 3/3, he didn't have to. These are all kind of the turns. And this Cthulhu is definitely going to spell the end of this game. There's just no way that it doesn't. Because even if it doesn't clear off the entire Tyrion, he can run the 4/4 or 3/3 into it and finish it off. So Cthulhu is basically 100% lethal at this point.
Yeah, it's really funny to see. Even now, even though like he has such a good chance of winning, he's still hovering over all his different options.
He just wants to make sure, and I get it. Sure, exactly. So yeah, so he can run the 3/3 in.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter how he does it. And that does it. So our champion is Brewdon. And another 3-0. We predicted this would go 5 games, but you know, Clynch could never get a win with that Paladin deck and never turn things around. So there you go. Congratulations to Brewdon. Fantastically played. I didn't see any major missteps. He just kept pouring on the pressure, and he couldn't find an answer.
Yeah, I've got to say, I'm really, really, really surprised. Especially given Clinch's record going in. I think that being on stream is a whole lot harder than people kind of understand. You see people in big tournaments, pros even, fall to the pressure. And I think that that's what we've seen here is, you know, just 2 really, really good players going head-to-head with the added pressure of the finals and the stream. And I think that it got to him, unfortunately. But still, really, really good series. Some great plays, some very, again, like just the same as yesterday watching Brewdon play, very, very methodical. A very slow player, ropes quite often, has a lot of really, really long matches, but obviously paid off in the end.
Yeah, no, you can see that he's thinking through his plays properly. He's doing the math before he starts making any decisions. And once he actually sees the line of play, then he just commits to it and goes down that line of play. So that's winning Hearthstone. That's going to get you a lot of wins. And you know, if there's one thing that you know the people watching this can take away, it's that when you're behind, it's very hard to pull the trigger on a move that might reverse things. But in Hearthstone, because of how things work, where once you have initiative, you're the one deciding where attacks go, and once you have initiative, you're the one kind of putting the pressure on at all times. There's only really one way to turn that around, and that is sometimes to take a risk. So. I'd encourage everybody to think about that if you're ever falling behind in games. And when you're ahead, you know, follow the example of our new champion here, which is to slowly continue to apply that pressure, and maybe don't make the YOLO play when you don't have to, because we saw that Brewdon was, you know, there were some plays where he could get him down. He had the play with the Shaman where he did get him down to 3 and then to 1, you know, and he was like, this is how I win with this deck. But with the Druid deck, he could have gotten him to 2 with that Cthulhu. He decided to draw and just put more pressure on the board rather, and waited until he definitely knew he had the game in the bag. So really, really well played, enjoyable, and I'm glad everybody participated in the tournament, and glad I got to cast it with you. That was fun.
Yeah, this is really, really fun. So I guess that's pretty much it for us tonight. So thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for hanging out. I think we'll probably jump into the stream chat now because they're 15 minutes behind, so why not? And yeah, remember to keep your eyes open for Taco Summer. Will probably be sometime in August. And yeah, don't forget to watch TAC every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern right here on twitch.tv/AMoveTV. Thanks a lot, guys.
Later.